Hey guys, Luke here, and as you can tell, I'm in quarantine. No, I'm just joking. I'm not in quarantine at all. But the NRL season is back tonight. Round 2 is here. Wasn't sure it was going to happen, but it has happened. So thank God it's here. And we're going to be doing my predictions, my preview for round 2. So let's get into it. Now I'm going to be using the app, using the Supercoach app and going on and doing my tips that way. And I'll just take you through my thoughts as to why I'm tipping these teams. And yeah, let's just go through it. So I got 5 from 8 last week. Not too bad, not too shabby. I feel like I probably should have done better. I think a lot of people got like 7 from 8. So, I mean, while it was okay, it wasn't fantastic, but let's get into round 2. Like I said, I really didn't think round 2 was going to happen, yet here we are, and I'm so excited. Hopefully the NRL continues to keep going. My channel depends on it. Also, I think a lot of Australian lives depend on it too, in terms of entertainment value-wise. A lot of people holding out for the NRL to keep playing, so I'm glad that they're doing it this week at least. Okay, you can see on the screen now, I've got my tips up. It's presented by KO Sports. What an app, been loving it at the moment, been using it. But the first game of round 2 is the Bulldogs up against the Cowboys. 70% of people have tipped the Cowboys. I can't say they're wrong. I feel like my head says go with the Cowboys. I feel like the Cowboys got such a strong team. My heart says the Bulldogs. Obviously, I'm a Bulldogs supporter. And I feel like the Bulldogs play such a gritty style. And just their effort last week was outstanding. I mean, I can see the Bulldogs pulling off an upset. However, I feel like your smart money is on the Cowboys. I think the Bulldogs style in terms of being gritty and grinding games out, I'm not sure it works against the Cowboys. The Cowboys have got such a strong forward pack. And also their backs are quite strong this year as well. Although they didn't get the job done against the Broncos, there's no shame. The Broncos were fantastic last week. I think the Cowboys would be a lot better this week, especially with Valentine Holmes having his first game there. Drinkwater and Morgan in the halves for the first time together. I'm expecting good things from the Cowboys this year. Hopefully not this week. Because I'd love to see my Bulldogs hit the win. However, I'm thinking the Cowboys are going to be winning this one. I'm thinking 1-12, but hey, I'm just going to be taking the Cowboys for this one. On to the second game, we have the Dragons up against the Panthers. Panthers 87%. People have tipped them. Can't blame them. After last week, the Dragons, they let me down. I tipped everyone that I had a bet on won, except for the Dragons. They definitely let me down big time there. The amount of chances they had against the Tigers was just way too high, and the amount of drop balls over the line, it was ridiculous. Now, Zach Lomax has been moved to the wing. Matt Duffy is back at fullback. Don't know if I like that move. I just don't understand having a guy like Zach Lomax who's super hyped up. They've given him a good contract. I mean, all reports he is a fullback, and given him one game. Now, it wasn't fantastic, but I mean, he probably wasn't the worst fullback of all time. And Matt Duffy has had chance after chance and hasn't cemented a spot. You'd think after about like 50 first grade games, you would know whether he's a first grader or not, and they haven't done so. So they've brought him back in. Zach Lomax to the wing. I don't even think he's a winger. I'd say he's better off in the centers if he's not playing fullback. But yeah, a bit of an interesting one for the Dragons. I suppose they had to make some changes. I'm just not sure if that was the change. I know he had a bad lead that conceded a try, but out of all the errors and all the shit players from round 1, don't know if Zach Lomax was the one to make way. But in terms of the Panthers, what a performance it was. 87% of people going with them. They're $1.60. I don't know. I really do rate this Panther side after last week. I know it's early on. I was expecting them to be quite disappointing this year, but they seem to gel quite well. And I was talking about the Bulldogs. They sort of were quite gritty. They sort of grinded the game out against the Roosters, which is very, very hard to do. And yeah, I was very impressed by the Panthers. Will they maintain it for the rest of the season? That's the big question. There's always the big question with the Panthers. They can do it every now and then, but they can't put it together for a whole season. But I think they'll have enough to get the job done against the Dragons, and I think it will be 13+. Moving on to Friday night, the Broncos up against the Rabbitohs. Now, this should be quite an interesting one. Wayne Bennett and Seabold once again up against their old clubs. Pretty sort of even compared to a lot of these ones. 59% going with the Broncos, 41% for the Rabbitohs. I'm really tossing and turning on this one. I don't know who I want to go with. I'm thinking the Rabbitohs. I did a video for Oliver and Rugby League in my opinion. I think I said Rabbitohs for that one. However, the more I look at it, the more I keep saying this Broncos 4-pack looks really, really good. However, I feel like the crowd not being there will be a big factor. Now, if it was played in front of a packed out Suncorp Stadium, I probably would go the Broncos, but because it's not, for that reason, I'm going to be going the Rabbitohs. I feel like it's a pretty even one, as you can tell by the betting odds, $1.90 each. I feel like it's pretty even, especially with the Rabbitohs starting so strong and then fading last week and nearly getting done by the Sharks, and the Broncos being so... They were 10 out of 10. They were a 10 out of 10 performance. Now going into the season, I would have said Rabbitohs easily, but just based off last week, going to be a very even contest. However, I think the Rabbitohs will have just a little bit too much class for them. I think the Broncos just a little bit too inconsistent for me, so I'm going the Rabbitohs for this one. Now moving on to Saturday, we have the Warriors up against the Raiders. I think this one's a pretty easy one. The Warriors, obviously, a lot of trouble with the Warriors at the moment in terms of whether they want to go home, who's going to play for them and stuff. The Raiders, not so much. Raiders, fantastic last week. Warriors weren't. So even if you take away the whole circumstances, I think the Raiders would absolutely smoke the Warriors, whether it's in New Zealand, Australia, wherever, on Mars, the moon, it doesn't matter. Raiders are going to get the job done here, and I think the general population thinks so because they've picked 96% of people have picked the Raiders over the Warriors. 4% are probably Warriors fans, to be honest. It says Eden Park, but it's being played up on the Gold Coast. So, yeah, the Raiders, $1.23, that's pretty good odds for them, I think, considering what's going on with the world and what's going on with the Warriors. Then we move on to the Roosters up against the Sea Eagles. This one kind of surprised me in terms of how many people have taken the Roosters, 84% to 16% for the Sea Eagles. I thought that maybe the Sea Eagles would have been a little bit higher. I know they weren't fantastic last week, however, and the Roosters weren't fantastic either. They got done by the Panthers, and like I said in the preview, the Panthers are so inconsistent. I don't know, they did play pretty well, but were the Roosters just not on form? They did have a few injuries and that. Josh Morris still not at the club, surprisingly. I thought he'd be there by now. But yeah, Manly, I feel like they do have the potential to, cause a bit of grief for the Roosters. I just don't think they have what it takes to get the win. So I'm going to take the Roosters. I'm going to add to that 84%. However, yeah, I'm just surprised there's not a few more people going for Manly there. Did I do my tips for those? Yes, I did. I've been clicking on it. Just got to make sure I actually click on it and do my tips. That'd be awful if I tipped around and then I go on and didn't even click on them. So moving on to the next game, we have the Cronulla Sharks up against the Melbourne Storm, which a few years ago would have been an absolutely great match. However, not so much now, you would think. A lot of the players who played in the grand final a few years ago, they're not there anymore. Your Paul Gallons, your Cooper Cronks, Michael Ennis, Billy Slater, they're all gone. Cameron Smith is still there though, and I think he's going to carry the Storm side to a great season. I wasn't sure of them going into the season, but just off last week, him and Munster, I think they can get the job done. And then Adam Jerome Hughes was actually quite good as well last week, with a little bit more like a halfback than he has done in previous seasons. But yeah, Melbourne Storm 91%. I can definitely see why they're so heavily favoured. However, the Sharks, they actually weren't that bad last week. I know they got done by the Rabbitohs, but they had a pretty big comeback. Probably should have at least even the game. I mean, a bad forward pass at the end by, I think it was Connor Tracy to Josh Morris. It would have seen them over in the corner. All he had to do was just draw and pass. Instead, he threw a forward pass, and yeah, things could have went different. I was glad I took the Rabbitohs, but just in terms of the game for the Sharks, they weren't as bad as what people probably think they were. And the Rabbitohs were on form as well. So for them to be able to stop the momentum of the Rabbitohs, I think that's big for the Sharks. They did a lot better than what I expected. I thought it was going to be a blowout. It wasn't. But the Storm, though, they're next level. I think, not in terms of them being better than the Rabbitohs, but I think they're a lot more consistent. I don't think you'll see them drop off like the Rabbitohs did. So if the Storm do get a lead, I think they'll hold it. But yeah, Sharks, I think they'll definitely be in the contest, but just a matter of whether they can get the win. I don't think they will, so I'm going to be going at the Melbourne Storm. I think they just have a little bit too much class. Cameron Smith, Cameron Munster, Pappenhausen, they got a few good attacking strike weapons in Olam as well. Yeah, I think they'll get the job done. Moving on to the Tigers up against the Knights. This one is going to be a pretty good one in my opinion. We have the Tigers 53% up against the Knights 47%. Betting odds are quite even as well. And just in terms of who I'm going to pick, I don't really know. The Tigers last week, I gave them no chance. Like I said, I put a big bet on them losing, and they obviously got the job done. Josh Reynolds, outstanding. Luke Brooks is going to be back this week. I don't think so. I think he's out for 3 to 4 weeks, something like that. But Josh Reynolds, just the energy he adds, it's just constantly there. I think he saved a try against Tarek Sims. He put off Tarek Sims in general. James Graham was off. Josh Reynolds just has a way of getting under players' skin and making them not play to their potential. And I feel like the Knights have a couple of players who are susceptible to losing their head. Guys like David Clemmer and that. Maybe even putting off players like Halen Ponga and Connor Watson and that. Who knows what Josh Reynolds is capable of. But yeah, the Knights, if they play to their potential, which is a big if, that they should do the Knights. They should do them well. They should win pretty well. But it's a big if. They haven't been able to display that over the last couple of seasons. So yeah, if the Knights are on song, I'm going to take them for that reason. Then I feel like the Knights they might be pretty good this week. However, they've got to play to their potential to get the win. Otherwise, the Tigers, they'll grind out a win. They'll grit out a win. I don't know. They'll get lucky and get a win. I don't know. The Tigers just find a way to do it. So yeah, Knights better be careful. Now we move on to the final game of the round. It is the Gold Coast Titans up against the Parramatta Eels. Now this one, I think it's pretty straightforward. The Titans were absolutely trashed last week. I know it's a home game for them. There's going to be no players, no fans there, so what does it matter? I mean, I suppose it's no different for them normally. We then have the Eels, who are just outstanding. I know it's I say they're outstanding. They weren't outstanding last week, but in terms of their lineup, I feel like they're pretty good. I feel like they should get the win. They're the favourites for a reason. I've tipped them. I've put a bet on them. I think they're going to get the job done pretty comfortably. So guys, those are my tips for round 2. Leave in the comments section below, what are your tips for round 2? It's going to be pretty weird considering, you know, the week that we've been having. But yeah, leave in the comment section below, what are your tips? Anyway guys, that's the end of the video. Hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, make sure you go ahead and smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Also make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. It's on the screen right now. It's MrLuke and YT. And also add me on Snapchat as well. It's MrLuke and YT as well. My Facebook is in the description below. If you want to go search me up on that, MrLuke. But yeah, that's all I've got to say. Round 2 is here. Hopefully we finish the round. Hopefully we get a round 3, 4, 5, etc. But if not, I mean, round 2 looks like it's going to be a pretty good week of football. So let's just enjoy it while we can. Anyway guys, that's where I'm ending the video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye guys.